Welcome, everybody. For those of us joining for the first time, grateful to have you. And hopefully, I've seen this presentation before, a version of it. You guys are in luck today. You're going to learn a lot. And I think there's going to be a tangible ROI here. If you guys pay attention and follow along with this kind of nut that Jocelyn has cracked, her and her team, you're going to be in great shape. For those of you that are returning, similar drill, give us 1 or 2 minutes and we'll do some housekeeping stuff, quick introductions, and of course, then we will get down to the content that you guys are all turning in for here. Make sure I have the chat on. And it's been fun the last couple of days, what we've done, and I'd like to do this again today. If you wouldn't mind, somebody's been here before, California class 2023. Where are you in the country and what's the graduating class of your students? So this has been fun. As you can see here, Jocelyn, we're very well represented across. I guarantee you we're very close to all 50 states. So you can see we're pouring in from all coasts here in the middle, primarily class 24. So we got some overachievers and 25, couple
I see 2027.
There you go. Real overachievers.
Wow. Lots of people from Texas.
Yeah.
I love Texas. I've actually lived in a couple places there.
There you go.
Love lots of these places. California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So listen, from a housekeeping standpoint, again, we will record today, just like we will all 4 of these days. We're going to send you all a follow-up and a nice package next Tuesday. Fingers crossed. That's the hope. But I think we'll be able to hit it. That'll include, again, all these recordings, all the slide decks, how to contact each of the presenters, any particular promotions or discounts, coupon codes that they're running specific to this boot camp. And we'll make sure, obviously, the idea is, and hopefully this has been your experience the first couple of days, is that we try to provide a ton of value, make sure that you're able to actually use some of the stuff you're hearing here and go benefit from it. And if you feel like you need some more help or more resources beyond that, we're going to make it clear how to find us or whoever you're looking to contact. And certainly that'll be no different from Jocelyn here today. We partner with Jocelyn for some time now because she really feels, and I said this a similar message with the Princeton Review yesterday. We don't do everything, right? We're not experts in everything, but we know that the families that we get in front of still need these voids or blind spots that we have, right? Test prep is not something we do, so we partner with who we think is the best on that front, Princeton Review. Private scholarships is just a small piece of what we do, a little part of our software, but we don't hold ourselves out as experts of how to best navigate this little niche within a niche here, right? So same exact concept. We tried to go out and spend a lot of different time feeling out different partners, but team up with who we consider to be the creme de la creme, and that's Jocelyn and the scholarship system. And that's why we like to partner with these folks, again, that are experts, so that anybody in our ecosystem has access to the stuff that we don't hold ourselves out as being experts on. Again, psyched to have Jocelyn here back again with us. She's been with us several times and we get nothing but tremendous feedback. I always end up learning something myself here. Jocelyn, if you want to say hello, talk a little bit about your history before I say a few words and ultimately turn it over to you.
Yeah, I have a lot of it already into the presentation, so I'm going to share some slides, but I just want to say thank you for having me. And for those of you that are on here, I'm seeing so many different years. And even if your students already, or if you have other children that are already in college, even those of you that have years to get there, all of this will apply to all of you. That said, I don't think that scholarships are just for those who are in the spring semester senior year. That is absolutely not the case. We're going to talk about really the high seasons of scholarships and stuff like that. But I just want to let you all know, seeing your years, your students' years, you're in the right place. So I'm excited to be here.
No, it's a great point, right? You're not too late, you're not too early, and it doesn't really matter where you are. There's not one year where we're going, I don't think we can help you, right? Even those that might feel like you're past the finish line, you're not, and you'll hear about that specifically. Quickly, what I want to do, and again, this is a refresher for some of you that already have been with us the last couple of days, but if you haven't already heard from us today, the last couple of days, set up your account, right? mycap.collegeaidpro.com. I'm just putting it in the chat again quickly. And this is what your home dashboard looks like, right? So if you haven't done it, do it, because it's going to allow you to do a couple of things, right? The first C, or EFCs, which is the foundation for determining your need-based financial aid eligibility. put some of the schools that you guys are applying to, have applied to, are thinking about at home into the platform here, because we're going to tell you not just the sticker price, because for most families that's misleading, okay, but the net cost. What are you actually going to have to pay at these colleges? Right? For you seniors, class 2023, upload your financial aid awards. If you've been accepted to schools, we're going to be able to translate your financial aid offers, number one, but much more powerful than that, in my opinion, we're going to tell you, did you get a good award? If I can pick on Boston College in my backyard here, they traditionally under award families on average about $10,000. Nobody knows that as consumers, right? We call them on that, and we're very successful in helping folks go back to them and say, hey, I should get 10,000 more bucks. That's meaningful, right? So even if your class 2023, put those offers in here. And again, if you're just doing this shopping process, leverage the platform. And one of the upgrades that you can do, even the free version, you're going to get a ton out of. And when we talk specifically about scholarships, you can just go put in some criteria that's important to you and your student, right? And just go say, hey, based on what we're thinking about majoring in, based on where we are in the country, go show me colleges that are going to give me meaningful scholarships, right? And then we can drill down into these. And for any school in the country, we're going to show you every scholarship that they offer, the qualifications for each. And then we're really good at telling you, well, how much is your kid going to get, right? And then we help you with the why. Right? Here's the average GPA. Here's the average test scores. Okay. Here's the average scholarship at this particular college. This is something else that we use right now for the class 2023 too. If you got a scholarship at a school, but it's less than the average, that's something we're able to appeal successfully with a lot of consistency, right? To say, hey, we're really psyched we get a $25,000 scholarship, but we see that your average is over 32,000. What can we do to get that number? Right. So again, if you haven't created your account, make sure that you do it as it pertains to scholarships. Our sweet spot is where you're going to get scholarships at particular colleges, for how much, how do you find the good fits for your kid that are also going to be, the price is going to be right as well. And we have a private scholarship search engine baked in here for the paid version of the platform. And I'll put a coupon code in a second here. And I say this even when we do presentations, and I'm going to say it right now, I wouldn't invest in our platform just for the private scholarship search engine, right? It's a nice value add and it allows you to filter for scholarships across the country, but it's not enough that I'm confident enough saying, hey, you're going to get ROI just from that, right? I totally believe it's as a piece of the bigger puzzle, you're going to get great value out of the platform as a whole. But for this, it's not good enough. And that's why we bring in Jocelyn to really supplement what we don't consider to be one of our sweet spots. Without further ado, you guys aren't here to hear me talk today. You're here to hear Jocelyn and her expertise, and I'll let you take it away, Jocelyn, and I'll stay out of your way here. You're still muted though, buddy.
There we go. I was just saying that to let you all know that we love the CAP software. For us, we teach a lot of strategies finding private scholarships. I'll explain the difference between private and merit. But this tool really is amazing for that merit side, getting the money from the universities. So it is nice that you have a little bit of the private side as well, because it is such an important part. Let's get into it. So again, hello, everyone. My name is Jocelyn Pearson, and I founded the scholarship system. I will be explaining my story in just a moment. But the reason I want to share my story is because I've probably been in a lot of your shoes before. You're going to learn a little bit just from hearing my own experience. Now, my goal in the next, I'm going to actually do it hopefully a little faster than 45 minutes. I know we have a lot to cover and Matt needs to end on time, but my goal is to show you how a student can get, how we've turned our own experience into 6 figures in scholarships. Even if your student is not low income, they have a less than perfect GPA and 0 athletic skills. I'm going to show why tons of scholarships are actually scams and how to make sure that you and your student are not focusing on those. We're also going to show you how to find dozens of scholarships that your student actually is eligible for. Now, I'm also going to give you a free gift. So you normally pay for this, but at the end of today's presentation, I'll give you a link so that you can grab this for free. It's a list of over 100 sources of scholarships that you can find. So again, my name is Jocelyn Pearson, and I've been in your shoes before. This is my crazy Italian family, if you will, and they knew that college was in our future. However, they also knew that there was just no way they could pay for it for all of us. And so really college was on me. And that's when a friend's mom said to me, she said, Jocelyn, if you can make applying for scholarships your job for 4 years, you can get paid. Your job senior year, you can get paid for 4 years. And most students think sounds pretty good if I can get paid to go to school. So I did start the process. Now I got sucked into scams. I got flooded with emails, but after sifting through the process, I actually won $500. And after that, I became obsessed with scholarships. I wanted to know everything about them, what worked, what didn't work, why did this work? And as you can see here, each year I got more and more money to the tune of over $126,000. I not only graduated debt-free, I literally got an overage check every semester where the university cut me a check for the excess beyond the bill, and I could use it for expenses that I needed to use it on. And I know you're all thinking that sounds like a lot of work, and I'm not saying it didn't, but as I was doing this, my amount of effort decreased. So they were inversely related because I just got better at the process. I had essays I could use, etc. So we'll talk about that. And so in the end, like I said, I did manage to graduate debt-free, which was life-changing for me. I've had tons of opportunities because of that. And that is really the backbone of the scholarship system, which is what we are sharing with you today. This is where I have for now, oh my gosh, over a decade, helped families across the country learn the exact steps that we used in order to skip those scams and fine-tune our materials so that our chances of winning the scholarship dollars are higher than the average. And it's been all over the place. We've been featured in lots of places, and the reason is because it works. So this is the thing. A lot of families try to go after scholarships the hard way is what we call it. This is where a counselor will say, go to FastWeb and look there. They apply, they hope for the best. And when the bill comes in, they just give up once their student goes to college. And their student ends up signing the dotted line. Sometimes parents do as well, and borrowing the money for 10, 20, the average is actually 21 years of payments. Now, the scholarship system, I like to think, is the easier way. Now, we break it down into 6 steps. What I'm going to focus on today are actually the first 3, because I don't want to just go surface level across all 6. We're going to go deep into the first 3 so that you can actually walk out of here with tangible actions. And I just saw Lisa's comment, your program has changed our lives. Daughter is in her freshman year of college for free this year, thanks to your teachings. Lisa, that's amazing. And if you haven't sent that to our team, you need to, okay? Because that's awesome. That makes me so happy. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, I love this. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. And by the way, for all the rest of you, I had no idea Lisa was going to share that. So that just made my day. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So step 1 is all about getting in the money-making mindset. This is important because a lot of students start and quit. So the way that I organize how we can overcome the mindset challenge is putting it into 4 scholarship myths. So here are the 4 that we are going to focus on. I'm going to show you how a lot of families think it's too late or too early. I'm going to show you the right timing. We're going to talk about how your student does not need a perfect GPA. They don't have to be the next Tim Tebow, and you don't have to be necessarily low income either to get scholarships. A lot of families think the good scholarships are gone. I'm going to talk about what families think are the good scholarships and which ones actually are the good ones. And lastly, we don't have time for this process. I'm going to share some tips to save some time. So if that sounds good, let me know in the comments if you're ready to get into this. Let's see here. Oh my gosh, Mark, my son used your teachings to get 19 full ride offers his second year at Vanderbilt. Oh my goodness. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Holy cow. You guys are going to make me blush. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Okay. So you guys can see it is possible. I love it. All right. I got some yeses, so we're ready to get in. So that said, myth 1, it's about timing. It's too late. It's too early. I've heard it all. I actually joke that my junior families, they're like, we've got tons of time. And then my senior families are freaking out. And I'm like, wait, where is that middle year where we need to apply for these outside scholarships? So that said, here is the breakdown. The scholarship school year starts with the regular school year. So August, September is when we flip into the next year of money. Okay. There are tons of deadlines in the fall. fall semester. Now, that said, October is a big deadline month, December. Then in the spring, we have February, March, April, big, massive deadline. So if you haven't noticed, that means now. If your student is a senior or older, you really need to be hitting these applications hard. That said, even our juniors, sophomores in high school can apply now as well. I won my first one as a junior in high school. That said, then after April, we can continue applying all the way through the summer. So all the way through until August. In fact, through the scholarship system, we give out thousands of dollars every year through scholarships as a way to give back. Our deadline is not until July. So I am proof that your student can continue applying all the way until they head to college and all the way until they graduate from college. Here's a student I love sharing, Bricken. She actually sent us an email while studying abroad about how she got $2,230 in scholarships and then another $1,100 scholarship while studying abroad. So if that doesn't show you that it's never too late, I don't know what does. Here are two other families. Now, these families actually managed to get free rides before their student graduated from high school. So they really hit it hard beforehand. The first one got over 92,000. The second one got over 120,000. But so it is also possible to do it early. And then you have families where there is, for example, Heather, they borrowed money, $9,000 for the first year. Then they found us, started applying, got lots of little scholarships. Then using the same essay, got a big $20,000 scholarship, took a job as a residence assistant, and boom, she was actually getting to her sophomore year, she broke even. Junior year, she got an overage check as well. All right, so hopefully that gives you an idea of the timing. Now, myth number 2 is that my student doesn't have a perfect GPA or they're not the next Tim Tebow, like I said earlier, and we are not low income. So we're just not going to qualify for anything. Everyone told us that. If you're thinking this, it is not the truth, okay? The truth is that they don't need that perfect GPA or athletic genes, and you don't have to be low income. So let's get into that. So first, just a quick story, that little chubby buck-toothed girl, that's me. And I was up to bat for softball, swung the bat, the ball was behind me, the bat flew to third base. It was horrifying. I'll tell you, that was my last season. I was so embarrassed, but safe to say, my family realized that athletic scholarships were not in my future. And in fact, not to remove those from people who do think you can go after those, but when it comes to athletic scholarships, actually less than 2% of athletes get money. This is a very challenging way to actually get it paid for. And so that's where step 2 comes in. We want to learn about what money is out there. What can we go for? Okay. So let's talk about the 4 different types of scholarships. And thanks for the typo one here. I'm going to save that one. How to differentiate fake ones, we're going to get into. And Tracy asked, what's an overage check? So this is where all the money is sent to the university typically. And then your university, you'll click a button, your student will pay the bill. And if there's an excess in funds, then they will cut a check that goes to your student. Now, and it'll go back to your student. Yep, exactly. All right, so let's get into the 4 different types of scholarships here. So the first one is merit. This is where we're talking about CAP, right? When we're talking about College Aid Pro, how can we get the most money from universities? This can be based on your students' qualifications, their leadership, community service, GPA test scores, etc. So lots of different opportunities here. Now, that said, if your student is not the perfect 4.0 student, there is still tons of money out there for them. Here's one scholarship, $1,300 SAT or 28 on the ACT, and they get $24,000. So there's an example. Or here's another one. If you look at the bottom here, 3.0s and a 1200 SAT can get $16,000. Now, also there are schools that are test blind, right? And there you can go and you can actually look on their website and they'll give you information about who they're enrolling. Or you can go to collegedata.com and you can see what they prioritize for admissions. So that said, your student doesn't have to be perfect to get money from schools, and you can absolutely use College Aid Pro to identify these opportunities. Now, second is our financial aid and grants. So this is how we break it up. So you've got merit money based on merit. Then we talk about financial aid and grants. This is where we are talking about FAFSA, okay, submitting FAFSA. In fact, there's well over $200 billion in money that's given out. And in one academic year, over $2 billion went unclaimed, okay? Unclaimed, that's not a myth, that's an actual fact. So we're talking about grants, we're talking about work study, we're talking about even government-based loans. However, they typically are the best terms when it comes to borrowing money. The only way to access these are by submitting FAFSA. For us, we tell all our families that you have to submit FAFSA, okay? Very few instances does it make sense not to. And that's pretty much only if we are illegal immigrants. Like otherwise, we want to submit it because even if you don't receive anything from the government, a lot of universities will not consider giving your student money without this information. So that said, FAFSA is our second line of defense in addition to finding the best priced university and getting money from them. So now that we know that, the third and fourth, so I put these together because they're very similar, scholarships and cash awards. So private scholarships and cash awards, these can be from all different sources. They can be from banks, credit unions, construction companies, grocery stores, law offices, doctor's offices, employers, your student's employer, Rotary clubs, Elks clubs. Sorry if I'm repeating any. I could go on associations, clubs your student's a member of. There are so many different sources. Now, the difference between a scholarship and a cash award is that a cash award, they're typically for students once they're already in college, and the money is given as a check for that school year, where scholarships are often given for the following school year. So say it's spring right now. When we win a scholarship right now, it's for this upcoming school year. So for this fall typically. And thank you guys. Yeah, for FAFSA, you want to start, I'm just going to go back for 1 second. For FAFSA, you want to submit it starting October of your student's senior year in high school and every year after until they graduate, every year, because your financial situation changes every year. The numbers change every year. Thank you for pointing that out, Robin. Okay, so let's get into more detail on these scholarships. Now, the scholarships I already briefly touched on are typically sent to the university. And then if your student gets more than needed, the university will refund the rest. Now, I've also received scholarships directly to myself. And if that's the case, then they'll give your family, your student a 1099 tax form. You want to do it legally tax wise. We've also, I think, let me see here. Yeah, I love this one. We've also seen scholarships given in Visa gift cards or in bonds. So it really can be in different ways, but that is typically how they are. And just going back to this, actually, we, through the scholarship system, also, we send the money directly to the university so that we can make sure that it goes to the bill first. And if there's any excess, it can be cut to the student. And as far as Mark asked about deferring funds, so in one example would be, say, as a junior, your student wins money. They typically already know, okay, they're not going to college. They're not going to college yet. They probably haven't even decided yet. And so then spring semester, senior year, they need to let them know where to send the money. So that's often the case. Or they'll send it to your student in a 1-year bond that matures when they're heading to college. Okay, let's see here. And I'm just making sure. All right. I'm going back. I'm trying to see if there's any quick questions. I'll answer them as we go. And if not, I'll get to them at the end. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm doing my best in the Q&A here too, Jocelyn.
Yes.
So
thank you for you're keeping it clean for me. I appreciate it. All right. So let's get into step 3. So I listed off a bunch of ideas of where they are, but I want to give you actual examples of how to identify these scholarships and how to know if they're legitimate or not. So this goes into the myth of the good scholarships are gone. A lot of families think the good scholarships are the Coca-Cola scholarship, the Dr. Pepper scholarship, the big free ride scholarship, right? $100,000, $150,000 in one win. The truth is that those are getting tens of thousands of applicants, and the chances of most students winning them are pretty slim. For us mere mortals, I always joke, we need to go after the good scholarships, which we define as smaller dollar scholarships that can still add up. These are low-hanging fruit, they're less competitive, they're more likely to be legitimate, and I'm going to show you a way to find ones that are eligible for your student. So that said, the good scholarships are not the ones that everyone is going for. We want to go for the other ones that are harder to find, which will take more time up front, but will pay off dividends in the end. Okay. So that is what we're looking for as far as general characteristics. And here's just an example. So earlier we talked about Heather. They won here $350. You might think, oh my gosh, that's what, one textbook. But then they were able to use that essay again and get $2,000, then $3,000, then $20,000. So this is where it can add up. And this is exactly how, this is why I shared my story earlier with the visual of the staircase. I gradually worked my way to that free ride because there was no way I was going to win the Coca-Cola. So that said, small scholarships can add up. So here's a family where they were able to find a school that was affordable. So here's an example where you could use the CAP software. Then they figured out what's our gap. They were looking at $6,000 to $7,000, applied for external scholarships, and boom, he won 3 scholarships, $6,500, and done, right? Amazing. So imagine how awesome would it be, even if your student just got $6,500, what would that be worth to you? So let's get into now how to identify a legitimate scholarship. And the first thing is to avoid the ones that are easy or no essay or enter to win $10,000. Now, if you're hearing this and you're thinking, oh my gosh, we've been doing these, I did too. Okay. I did these for pretty much my whole junior year. And the thing is that they flood your email. They're basically collecting you and your students' information so that they can send you marketing materials, or they want rankings for their website. Overall, and I've heard parents say someone has to win them. That's fine. But I've, again, been doing this for over a decade. I've never seen a student win these. Okay. Granted, I've also now told them not to waste their time on it, but in all the years, I really haven't seen these pay off. Instead, I'd rather focus on the good scholarships. So how do we identify those? Here is what we call the scholarship spectrum. On one side, we have the ones that are not worth our time, and then we gradually work our way to ones that are worth our time. Now, ones that are not worth our time, again, based on luck, drawings, sweepstakes, if the word easy is there or no essay. If it's based on luck, the only thing your student can do to increase their chances is enter more. That's not based on anything in our control. On the other hand, we have legitimate scholarships based on competitiveness. They require effort, yes. Oftentimes, though, we can reuse materials, but they also have different sections. They're asking about your student and their qualifications. And we want this because those are things that we can improve. We can always get a better recommendation letter. We can always write a better essay. We can always improve our scores, our GPA, our activities. These are things within our control. And that's how we help students have higher success rates, because we're focusing on ones that are in their control. And then we improve the materials, right? How do we turn the dial in our favor? How do we write better? How do we compete better? How do we interview better? All these skills, right? So that we can increase our chance of winning. The only way to do that is if we're focusing on the legitimate scholarships. All right. So where can we find them? Office cabinets or the high school's website. Another fun tip here is actually to look at neighboring high schools' websites. Sometimes they'll find scholarships that your school hasn't. So if it's on the website, you may find ones that your school wasn't aware of. Second, and by the way, I do always recommend going into the guidance office. Sometimes they'll get sent some scholarships that they'll just print off. They don't email it out or anything like that. So sometimes there's a filing cabinet drawer with scholarships that have no eyeballs are hitting. Secondly, looking local. I mentioned tons of examples earlier. A fun way here to look local, I love this tip, is to actually look at previous year's graduation booklets. They often list off the scholarships that students won. A lot of times those are local ones. So you can look that way. I'm going to show you my favorite way to search, to look local in just a moment though. Social media, look up #scholarship at thescholarshipsystem.com. We have scholarship lists. You can also follow us on Facebook. We share scholarships inside our private members group, Twitter, Pinterest, lots of scholarship lists out there. And fourth, and this is actually on the bottom for a reason, this is one of our last places that we look, are the search engines. So you've got to keep in mind, like fastweb.com, scholarships.com, everyone is going to those because they're user friendly. They're easy. I don't blame them. You fill in a few criteria and bam, they give you a nice list. But those are the same scholarships they're giving to all of the people. So how do we find the ones that aren't even on those search engines? That's going to be the last section we're going to cover. And my trick is Google. So you might be thinking, of course we go to Google, but I'm going to show you a very specific way. So what I recommend here is using specific searches. So for example, searching your student's major or career path, plus the word association, plus the word scholarship. Now, this is different than engineering scholarships because that's going to give you fastweb.com, scholarships.com, et cetera. What we're doing here instead is searching for actual associations giving out the money. So when I'm looking at those results, I can see, oh, this is the actual Engineering Association of America giving out the money. So the chances of me being eligible, my student being eligible are higher, more likely it's legitimate. And I don't know if you all knew this, but the search engines actually charge fees for them to list your scholarship. For example, FastWeb. A lot of scholarships, they don't want to pay that fee because they'd rather give it out in scholarships. For example, actually, I found that out myself when I was trying to submit hours. So I said, whoa, I'd rather just give that to a student than to pay you guys for this. So a lot of these are not even on there. Here's another one. I love this one. Searching county, your county or your city, plus the word foundation, plus the word scholarships. Now, this often comes up with tons of scholarships. And if you're in a small town, try to go to the nearest big town, but this can identify dozens and dozens of scholarships, especially for those of you that your student hasn't headed to college yet. A lot of times, if they get the money as a senior, they can reapply once they're in college. So this can turn into years of money like it did for myself. Another way to use this our Google search method in the scholarship system is to search a passion like public speaking scholarship. That could be one. Or here's one, scholarship for horse lovers. And again, we skipped the fastweb.com searches. We scrolled down and we found youngrider.com. Well, that's clearly pertaining to equestrian, to horse riders, right? So we went to that website and boom, we found 6 that she was eligible for. All right, I'm just going to take a break here. Zane, can private school scholarship money be used for Ivy schools? I believe so. I haven't had anyone tell me that they've had an issue with that. The one area that might be an issue is if you get tons of money from the school itself, but that should not be a problem. Let's see here.
And one of the repeat questions that I got, and sorry if I personally missed this, Jocelyn, is that we got a few asking about how do we know which scholarships are scams?
Yes. Okay. And that's going back to where we have that scholarship spectrum, right? So let me just click back quickly. So we want to avoid the ones that are based on luck, the drawings, the sweepstakes, and we want to focus on ones that are based on competitiveness. Basically, ask yourself, is this something my student can submit in 15 minutes or less? Probably not worth our time. And let me see here. Someone said my little sister got a scholarship in 8th grade that matured when she entered college. That's exactly, Sophia, thank you so much for sharing that. That's awesome. That's exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, never too early. Now is a good time. Like, yep, exactly. Now, and you can see here, these responses are hilarious. I love sharing these screenshots. Holy crap. Yes, there are tons. This is just by sending out to our members, hey, don't forget to do our Google search. Just very quickly, you can uncover lots of money. One of these students, it actually turned into $3,000 for them. So this method, it's simple, but not easy. Don't underestimate this. Okay. And one example here, one of our students, Nick, got over $29,000 beyond the bill to where he was getting an overcheck. He did better than I did actually using this method. Okay, let's get into the 4th myth, and that is that this process takes tons of time. I'm not saying it does not take time. Okay, if it didn't, everyone would have a free ride. But the thing is that it doesn't have to take tons of time because of finding the right system. That is why it's called the scholarship system. It's about a system to get scholarships. So there's lots of little ways that we can save time here. All right. So actually going off of looking for scholarships using our Google method, say that you find an amazing scholarship that your student's eligible for, but maybe the deadline just passed. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. If they would still be eligible next year, I recommend putting it on the calendar or actually through the scholarship system. We have a free app and Chrome extension that will remind you of deadlines, but saving it with an alert for the following year. Set it for a month before the deadline. Usually scholarships have the same deadline year after year. And what we're doing there is we're saving time so that next year we have to do less searching. And this is, again, a great way not to miss a deadline is to save it with the link and save it with the deadline. Okay. And then another thing is to create documents that we can reuse. So in the scholarship system, we actually have templates and stuff for this, but any kind of essays, any kind of commonly used information, maybe they're asking for your students' curriculum, the grades they've taken, or sorry, the classes they've taken, grades they've received, awards, any kind of information like that can be reused. We should have documents for to save us some time. I've got to share this story. This student, again, got over $90,000 in scholarships, but I asked her, I said, how many essays do you think she wrote? She said, actually, in the end, she thinks no more than 6. She was able to just cut and paste pieces of them onto her applications, and she was able to get a free ride to college. So this is where a lot of times, and this is actually a full lesson I have on how to reuse essays, how to tweak them for different essay prompts. But if your student can write a well-written essay, a lot of times it can be used over and over. Lena asked, if we don't get a scholarship one year, can we reapply the following year? Absolutely. Just don't use the same essay. If it didn't work last year, it's not going to work this year. Write a new essay or make some major tweaks, have someone else review it. But definitely, there's no rule that you can't as long as you meet the criteria. Great question. All right. And here's another example. Joseph, over $76,000 in scholarships by end of senior year. Okay. And I know that he's getting more and more each year after that. And they said we were told our income was too high to qualify. And yet this is how they got their money. But I love this. The reason I'm sharing this is I interviewed him afterwards, and he said one of the scholarships took him maybe 30 minutes because he was able to reuse everything. And he won $600, 30 minutes, $600. Okay, so here's just 5 quick sections. I just want to give you an idea of what to look out for a legitimate scholarship, really owning in on that point. Basic info, academics, what kind of class rigor, grades, etc., involvement, essays, and oftentimes I'll ask for an anything else section if there's anything that your student hasn't submitted. So that said, this is the path to scholarships, right? So we went in depth through step 1 through 3, which is about the mindset. It's about understanding what types of money are out there. And then it's about finding those scholarships. Okay. Now, this is a continuous process. Like I mentioned, it does not end until your student either has a free ride or graduate from college. My last check I cashed was on my way home from college graduation. So this is an ongoing process that we want to keep doing. And remember, as your student is doing this, the amount of effort it requires can decrease. So that said, I want to spend just a few minutes explaining the scholarship system. I can answer some questions, and then I know that Matt has a little bit to recap with as well. So that said, the scholarship system, it's the full 6 steps, of course. We cover even more in depth on step 1 through 3. I tried to give you as much as I could today in the time that we have, but then we go further on, and I'll show you the steps quickly. But the idea here is to make it effortless for your family to find legitimate scholarships that your student's actually eligible for. Learn the tricks to save them, document them, not miss the deadlines. What can we do to increase our chances, right? Remember, I talked about turning the dial in your student's favor, hooking the judges. We have a 3-step writing method and a 3-part framework that even students that hate writing love this. In fact, I've had students write me saying, hey, I use your writing method for term papers now. So this is a big help for a lot of students because they hate writing. And lastly, our goal is to help you save hundreds of hours. I wasted an entire year of my life doing the wrong steps until I finally cracked it. So we like to save families a lot of time and frustration. So that said, the steps are broken down into, again, getting in the right mindset. We go beyond what we talked about with the myths here, including goal setting. I actually bring in a in-house shrink where she talks about how, as a parent, you can do this process with your students so that you actually don't go crazy and see results. The second step is maximizing college funding 101. We talk about the CAP software we have mentioned in there. We talk about how to compare different college costs, how to find that gap, what are the different types of money out there, all the basics what we're looking at. Third is, where do we find the legitimate scholarships? It is all about building that list. You even see actual examples of me going through them and helping students find scholarships. Step 4 is, how does your student get competitive? So even if your student's already a senior, already there, or if we're looking to build involvements, it's actually not about joining a ton of things. It's about joining a couple things deeply. And we share tons of tips on that so that your student can be more competitive. Step 5 is everything about the application. If it is a requirement, we have tips for it. Essays, interviews, video essays, resumes, cover letters, you name it, thank you letters. We have templates, we have tips, we have steps on all of it. And you can see here a student talking about how our writing method has helped her win one for 500 and one for 5,000, but she has decreased her writing time because of it. So there's an example of that writing method. And lastly, bringing in the money year after year. So this step is actually, in my opinion, one of the most important, because we want to make sure that our student is bringing in the ones that we've won already and more each year. So lots of tips here, including networking, taxes, anything around how we can bring the money in year after year. And lastly, so it is, or not lastly, but a very important point here is it's also, we have a support and community around this. So we have a group with parents. You can see here, one of the parents literally had tears from the amazing feedback she received. So this is huge because we want that motivation and that accountability, even for your student. This is a mom who said, I had no idea how motivating this would be for my daughter. She finally jumped in. She had clear steps to do. So talking about that mindset, overcoming the challenges, we know where families get stuck, and we give you and your student the right tools to get over those hurdles. We also have weekly Q&A sessions twice a week. We have a coach that's accessible. So think of this as office hours included for free. You can jump on, they're about 30 minutes long, and ask any questions so that you're not stuck. And then we do a bigger one at the end of the month, every month. And okay, in addition to support though, we've also gotten results. So we've actually now surpassed $10.5 million, and that's not including this school year. So I know that we are probably, I would guess, at least at 12 million at this point. So that said, that's it. If you are interested, you can go to scholarshipsystem.com/info and learn more. We've got bonuses, anything that you need around scholarships, they're in there. And the last thing I want to give you is your free gift for sticking with me to the end. And you can go to, let me get this little, there we go. The link is the scholarshipsystem.com/cap gift. So CAPGIFT, and you will see it's free. Normally, this is something that you pay for. It is incredible. Lots of different places, lots of different ideas on where to find these scholarships. So that's it. If you have any questions, or if we have time, Matt, maybe you let me know if we have a couple minutes or not. And thank you guys for having me. My email is on the screen there. You can go to our website, reach out to us there, but we're here to help. So thank you guys.
No, totally. Just a couple things I'll add, and then by all means, take a couple questions that you want to hit on. So just first out, tomorrow is our last kind of day of the boot camp. I think it'll be a really good one. So Brian Ford is going to join me. Brian Ford has been on every side of admissions you can imagine. He's the director at Boston University. He's read thousands of applications for all the UCs. He still reads applications for a bunch of different colleges. He's worked as a college counselor at a few really prestigious high schools in the private sector. So in my opinion, he's the resource for all things just for the admissions part of the process. How do I build my list of colleges? What's realistic for me? Should I go test optional or not? What are the pros and cons there? What do I need to be thinking about in terms of interviews, which are making a big comeback and are more popular now? What are the trends that he's seeing again from that insider information? So if you can join us live tomorrow, we'll also have being the last day, some really significant kind of giveaways and live only discounts similar to what we did on Tuesday. And I'll wrap with a couple things, but before I do that, Jocelyn, why don't you just make sure you answer any of the questions that you feel like you want to get to here? And I'm sure you can't get to all of them, but cherry pick a couple.
Yes. I think one of the big ones I'm seeing is how soon can we apply for scholarships? I'm seeing that one a lot. And it's never too early. So actually there are scholarships out there for students as young as 4 years old. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. But if I could, I would say start this process by sophomore year, really start the process by junior year, get those applications. But sophomore year, if we can start looking at competitiveness, writing some essays, doing some searches, building that list, it'll make junior, senior year so much less stressful. And your student could potentially win money even as a sophomore. Like you just saw here, someone's sister, I think it was, won money and it just matured once she got to school. So if I could, I would ideally, everyone would start sophomore year, no later than junior year. But that said, it's also never too late. So even if if you have older children that are already in college, it's not too late. Okay. So hopefully that answers it. A lot of you are asking essay tips. That can be a whole training in and of itself. We have so many tips on that. But when we're talking about a good essay, The biggest thing there is it's not a term paper, okay? It's not restating the essay prompt and writing a term paper. Instead, it should be more creative and thoughtful, engaging. We want to stand out, right? We want the judges to remember our students. We also want to make sure we're answering the essay prompt. That is a big issue I see whenever we're reviewing scholarship essays. What is the association search? So you want to just search your student's major or career path. So say they are doing engineering plus the word association plus the word scholarships. Okay. And again, in the scholarship system, when we go through, I give so many different examples. We actually have something called our Savvy Scholarship Locator. It gives you 36 blocks, I think it is, where you and your student can brainstorm different topics to research. And then you just go and do the Googling. All right, let's see here. So I answered these questions.
And then just as you're looking at those, Jocelyn, I just echo your sentiment. It just from a high level, I think in general, we've both had enough experience and just been a passenger on enough family journeys to be able to say that with a lot of confidence, that the earlier you get engaged with this, get yourself educated, get hands-on, you're maximizing your odds to have a more successful end result. That's not rocket science, but it is easier said than done. That's against my nature. I'm a procrastinator by nature, so I totally get it. But I think for this process in particular, you will have a better end result if you get engaged earlier, just across the board. And that's just like a common theme where we've seen enough evidence to support that in spades, I think. So
absolutely. I'm looking here. Ooh, do legit private scholarships ever ask for finances, or is that a flag too? So they should not be invasive. FAFSA will answer a lot of that. Sometimes they will ask for your FAFSA number, the EFC, the expected family contribution, but that should be pretty much the extent of it. We also never want to provide social security number. That is definitely a red flag. And the social security number, if your student wins a scholarship, they will need your students, their way to identify them, their student ID, or sometimes that is their social. I think a lot of schools, fortunately, have gotten away from that. Mine was my social back then, but now it's more student ID. But that said, that only if your student has already won and they're just asking for who to send the money to. Otherwise, no, they shouldn't be asking that information. That was a great question. I'm glad that you asked.
And if I could just share for a minute, Jocelyn, in closing here, and then again, feel free to chime in whatever for any other questions. But yeah, everybody, we're going to send out recordings and the slide decks next Tuesday. So everybody that's registered for any of the days of this week, you're going to get all of the presentations, today included, of course, all of the recordings in kind of one package. Next week, that'll have this stuff like Jocelyn, coupon code, her free gift. Again, all that in one place. Obviously, you guys have access to it already. She was kind enough to share, but so you will have that. And if I could, Jocelyn, unless you have something else to share, if I could share my screen quickly.
Oh, let me hit stop share. And while you're pulling that up, just a quick question. Yeah, you can go to FastWeb, but have that filter on. Like I just taught you all. We want to know, scam, not scam. So you can use FastWeb, but I would use it last. Do the Google searching first. And if you do use FastWeb, make sure you're using, hey, what did Jocelyn say is legitimate or not? Use that because that'll save you a lot of time and headaches.
And I just want to wrap with, again, just we can do a kind of I think it's fun. Throw out a couple of colleges that you guys are thinking about applying to, have applied to, or visiting, and we'll see how they do scholarships and how we project what you get for scholarships is based on these are some of the questions we're asking you. Sorry, I'm having a tough time with my Zoom here, but we're asking you some basic questions here, but then we want to know about the student, right? What's GPA and test score of the student? And even if you haven't taken the SAT or the ACT yet, you're not going to, you can either put in a filler there or leave it blank and just have the GPA. And this is how we're going to figure out what the colleges are actually going to offer in terms of scholarships or not. So I saw was Fairfield here. So if I put in Fairfield, it's a little school up here in New England. Okay, we can see that, okay, very expensive school on the surface, $75,000. But for this family, we're going to get a very meaningful discount based on the EFC and based on the student's credentials, right? And if we want to drill down, we can see why this family is likely to receive a scholarship, certainly, but the need-based grants. And we got some of these questions actually today It's very rare that colleges stack financial aid and scholarships. Usually you get to hire the two numbers, right? So it is the need-based financial aid that's driving us down to our net cost. But we can see, regardless of this family's financial aid eligibility, we can expect to get this $28,000 award. And here's some context as terms of the why. Or like, sometimes we'll tell you when you're getting an automatic scholarship, which is, we never use the word guaranteed, but we're confident enough to put the word automatic there because it's a grid system, right? If you get this GPA and test score, we give this scholarship. This is likely. We're confident enough to project you're going to get 28,000. And again, we can look at the why. What's the average GPA here? What are the average test scores? And where does your student step? I'll put one more school in there because this is how we want you. This is how we want you using it. Okay. I'm looking at this. I guarantee you, here's another important thing here. We're not going to show us at Stanford. I promise you that. We're going to get a discount, but really Stanford's and colleges that are like, scholarships don't exist there. Okay. There's no Ivy League schools that give scholarships. There's now about 100 colleges in the country that scholarships don't exist. So it's really important to know that, especially if we're not eligible for need-based aid, that we're going to be paying full sticker price there, right? Now, this family is going to be eligible for need-based aid at Stanford, but that's an important point that I don't think really came up today, that not every college gives scholarships. That doesn't mean you can't get private scholarships, though. That's an important distinction, and we got that question today. So Stanford is not going to give you a private scholarship, right? But I'm sorry, Stanford is not going to give you a merit-based scholarship, nor are they going to give anybody a merit-based scholarship, but you can still go get private scholarships and have that applied to your bill there. So again, we just want to make sure that you guys are aware what you have access to. If you haven't created your account yet, do it. Again, it doesn't cost you anything. I'll put the link in here again. It is mycap.collegeaidpro.com. And if you want to upgrade to any of our services, I'll just put in our Camp 24. We'll give you a 20% coupon or 20% off code or whatever, right? So it ends up being, I think, like $100 and change for our platform. Or you can, for the year, or you can upgrade to the Victorian, right? You go right up here and you can click an hour. You can click on that, and the Victorian, which with the coupon code, I think is like $225. But you'll get an hour with one of our experts, right? You can meet with a director of financial aid at Harvard, at MIT, me, anybody on our team, and have access to the platform for a year and use that coupon code. And I think it should be a good investment. But I think for today, again, as always, Jocelyn, I learned a ton, right? I think to me, the big takeaways from a really high level is you can't start too early. It's also never too late, right? Do your due diligence here. And it's, and Jocelyn's teaching you how to be efficient here, but you put in a little sweat equity. I think there's a real reasonable expectation that there's going to be a return on that investment. And I love that concept of the students being hands-on here and starting to roll up their sleeves and actually being invested in this. And this is really how they can have some skin in the game and contribute towards this huge investment.
Absolutely. Skin in the game helps. And that's why we bring in that teen shrink, because that motivation side can be challenging, but it's not impossible. If you can make this a team system, it can definitely pay off for decades. Thanks for having me. And if anyone has any questions, like you said, Matt said, we'll be sending out the slides and our contact information and all that.
All right, Jocelyn, thanks as always. I always appreciate you joining us. Enjoy your beautiful Caribbean weather down there as we freeze our asses off in the Northeast here.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.